So you guys have an upcoming expansion that you just announced at PDXCon, and it's called Royal Court. Can you tell us what to expect in this first big addition to this game?
Of course. So there's quite a lot in the expansion. You have the namesake, the royal court itself. Every king and every emperor that is non-tribal, or rather that is feudal or clan, will have access to this royal court view, where they have an actual 3D scene, characters placed, including themselves. They can collect interesting characters and artifacts in their court, put them on the wall or on pedestals, and manipulate a resource, or well, not a resource actually, but rather a balancing act called grandeur, that affects your political standing and what you can do, your prestige, and so on. That is one part of the expansion. And then, of course, we're reintroducing the inventory, both the personal one and the court one I mentioned earlier. So your character can wield a sword, and in your court you can have a tapestry, for example. There's lots of small things that tie into the court as well. The other really big one that doesn't have to do with the court is the culture rework, where we're doing a massive rework of how cultures work foundationally, which is going to be free in the patch.
Oh, wow.
Where we make them based on pillars and ethoses and have traditions that expose what cultures do well. This is an example of what I mentioned before with making sure things are exposed and intuitive. Cultures had a lot of magic to them. There was nothing that told you that the Anglo-Saxon culture had their special elective government, for example. They could have the Vitengamot. But now it's on a tradition, so it's exposed to the player. So you know why they have access to the things they have access to. Everything is exposed and visible. And then the big thing that's coming in the expansion is, of course, dynamic cultures. Being able to diverge and hybridize your cultures, which is something I love personally. It's something I've wanted in Crusader Kings since I started working on Crusader Kings. You can have these amazing, cool hybrids popping up. Both the really historical ones, such as Turco-Persian or Turco-Iranian.
Oh, wow.
And, of course, the regular Crusader Kings craziness, where you have, I don't know, like steppe people taking over France and creating some Franco-Chimek hybrid culture, which happened in one of my games recently.
Oh, wow.
Like, complete insanity sometimes. And there's much more. I mean, we have court positions. You can give characters roles in your court, and they provide you with actual benefits in exchange for a salary. And I mean, there's much more really. It will be covered in dev diaries in the upcoming months.
One thing that you mentioned was the throne room, and that it's going to be 3D. How is that going to be presented to the player? Is it actual, like when you click a button, it's going to go into like a 3D virtual like throne room kind of thing?
Yes, it's you can think about it as the bridge between the map and the character. You have things happening in your throne room between you and your courtiers, or just between your courtiers. As I mentioned, you have the grandeur in there, and you also have your artifacts, which you can admire. But there's also characters doing things in there. So you have events happening in your court. So you have a reason to go and check it out now and then, because there might be something interesting going on. Some people are fighting, or whatever have you. And they will also be in the view itself. So you can see them standing next to each other and chatting.
Wow. That seems to be like that seems to be like a huge addition to the game. I mean, how are you guys tackling that? That seems to be like a massive addition.
Oh, we're tackling it with well, what's the best word to use? We're treating it seriously. We're putting a lot of time into it. We are making sure we get everything right, thinking about performance and how it looks, etc. It's challenging, of course, but it's getting there. You probably saw the screenshot we put in
Oh yeah.
the dev diary, and since then it's become even better.
Yeah, when you guys had the trailer, I thought that was just kind of like kind of like a teaser of not like I didn't think it was actually going to be like a physical representation of an actual throne room. That's really impressive. So really can't wait to check that out. That's going to be amazing.
Yeah, we're designing this expansion to appeal to the Crusader Kings player base in a very broad sense, because we have, of course, there's a big overlap between these two groups. So don't think that there are two separate groups. Most of them have a big overlap, but there's the very role play focused group, and the Royal Court feature is really, it deepens the role playing aspect with you seeing yourself on your throne. There's nothing more kingly than actually sitting on your throne and ruling, seeing your subjects and your items and everything you've collected around you. While the culture system and the dynamism of that appeals very much to the players that like to see the world evolve over time and see interesting history play out in the span of hundreds of years, rather than, temporary, here and now in my court, I am the king this year. It's an evolution that sticks with the game.